The stars looked peaceful that morning. Captain Han Wool stood on the bridge of the Aegis Prime, Earth's most advanced defense station. He held his coffee cup and watched the blue planet below. Earth turned slowly, showing the lights of cities waking up for another day. Han Wool had been protecting this planet for 10 years. Nothing ever happened. Space was quiet and safe. "Captain," called Communications Officer Boram from her station. "I'm getting some strange readings on the long-range sensors." Han Wool walked over to her console. The screen showed 10 small dots moving toward Earth. They were still very far away, but they were coming fast. Very fast. "What do you think they are?" Han Wool asked. Boram shook her head. "I don't know, sir. They're not following any normal flight path, and they're moving faster than anything I've ever seen." Tactical analyst Dong-Su looked up from his computer. "Captain, those objects are not from Earth. They're not from anywhere in our solar system. The energy signatures are completely unknown." Han Wool felt his stomach drop. In all his years of service, they had never detected alien technology. Earth had been alone in the universe as far as anyone knew. "Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. 100% sure. These are alien ships or weapons of some kind." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Han Wool looked at the screen again. The 10 dots were getting bigger. They would reach Earth in less than an hour. "Boram, try to contact them. Send a message on all frequencies. Tell them this is Earth Defense Station Aegis Prime. Ask them what they want." Boram worked at her console for several minutes. No response. "Captain, they're not answering any of our signals." "Dong-Su, what can you tell me about their weapons?" Dong-Su's face was pale. "Each object is carrying enough energy to destroy a large city, maybe more, if they hit populated areas." He didn't need to finish. Han Wool understood. 10 weapons, each powerful enough to kill millions of people. His hands started to shake. "Contact Earth Command immediately. Tell them we have incoming alien weapons. Tell them to prepare for attack." Far across the galaxy, War Marshal Thylix stood in the command center of the Vorthak flagship. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His species had conquered 3 star systems by showing overwhelming force first, then demanding surrender. It always worked. "The missiles are on target," reported his weapons officer. "They will strike the human planet in 57 minutes. Thylix nodded. "Good. 10 strikes should be enough to break their spirit. Humans seem emotional from their radio transmissions. They will surrender quickly after seeing such power." The Vorthak had been watching Earth for years. They listened to human radio and television signals. Humans seemed weak to them. They fought among themselves over small pieces of land and resources. They wasted time on art and music and love. They were clearly not a warrior race like the Vorthak. "Sir," asked the weapons officer, "why not simply destroy the entire planet? It would be easier." Thylix made a sound that was like laughing. "Because we need workers, not empty space. Fear is more useful than death. When they see what we can do, they will serve us willingly. It is always the same with weak species." Back on Aegis Prime, Han Wool watched the alien weapons get closer to Earth. Earth Command had been contacted. Emergency broadcasts were going out to every city on the planet. But there was nothing anyone could do. Earth had no weapons that could reach the aliens in time. "Captain," said Dong-Su quietly, "I've analyzed their targets. They're going to hit 10 major cities. Seoul, New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Delhi, São Paulo, Cairo, Sydney, and Lagos." Han Wool closed his eyes. Those cities held over 100 million people. His own family lived in Seoul. His wife Mi-young worked at the university. His daughter, Subin, was only 8 years old. She would be at school right now, learning about art and music and all the beautiful things that made life worth living. "How long do we have?" 32 minutes. The next 30 minutes felt like a lifetime. Han Wool and his crew watched helplessly as the alien weapons approached Earth. They tried everything they could think of. They fired missiles at the weapons, but their rockets were too slow. They used lasers, but the weapons had shields that blocked everything. They sent out emergency signals, but no help was coming. 2 minutes until impact, reported Dong-Su. Hanwol opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Captain Hanwol of Aegis Prime. In 2 minutes, Earth will be attacked by unknown alien forces. 10 major cities are the targets. May God help us all. The weapons hit Earth at exactly the same time. Hanwol and his crew watched in horror as 10 points of light appeared on the planet below. Each light grew brighter and brighter until they couldn't look directly at them. The weapons were using some kind of antimatter technology that created explosions bigger than nuclear bombs. Seoul vanished in a ball of fire, then New York, London, Tokyo. One by one, 10 of humanity's greatest cities disappeared. The explosions sent shockwaves around the planet. Electromagnetic pulses killed electronics for hundreds of miles. Earthquakes shook the ground. Tidal waves hit coastlines. Boram was crying at her station. "Seoul is gone," she whispered. "My parents, my brother, everyone is gone." Dongsu stared at his screen. "The death count! I can't even calculate it. Billions of people gone in seconds." Hanwol felt numb. His family was dead. His friends were dead. Everything he had ever known was burning below him. He wanted to scream or cry or break something, but his body wouldn't move. Then his radio crackled to life. It was Admiral Young-ho calling from the Lunar Command Bunker. "This is Admiral Young-ho to all surviving Earth forces. The aliens have made their move. They have killed billions of our people. They have destroyed our cities. They think they have won." The Admiral's voice was shaking, but it was filled with something Hanwol didn't expect. Not fear, not sadness, anger. Cold, hard anger. They are wrong. They think humans are weak because we love peace. They think we will surrender because we value life. They have made the greatest mistake any enemy can make. They have awakened something that was sleeping. Hanwol found himself listening carefully. Around the bridge, his crew stopped crying and started paying attention. For millions of years, humanity survived on a dangerous planet. We fought ice ages and plagues and predators. We fought each other when we had to, and we learned to fight very, very well. But we chose peace when we could have it. We chose to build and create and love instead of destroy. The Admiral paused. When he spoke again, his voice was like iron. "Those days are over. The aliens wanted to show us our place in the universe. They wanted to teach us fear. Instead, they have taught us something else. They have taught us that peaceful and weak are not the same thing. They have removed the chains that kept the warrior inside every human locked away." On the Vorthak flagship, War Marshal Thylix watched the destruction on Earth with satisfaction. 10 cities were gone. The humans would contact him soon to discuss surrender terms. It always happened this way. But minutes passed, and no surrender message came. Instead, his communications officer looked confused. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from the human planet, but they're not requests for mercy." "What are they saying?" "They're organizing, sir. The surviving humans are coordinating rescue efforts. They're moving to underground shelters. Some are even talking about fighting back." Thylix frowned. This was not normal behavior for a defeated species. When the Vorthak attacked other planets, the survivors always panicked and begged for mercy. They didn't organize. They didn't plan. Keep monitoring their communications. They will come to their senses soon. But as hours passed, the human transmissions became stranger and stranger. Instead of despair, the Vorthak intercepted messages full of determination. Humans were not breaking down. They were coming together. On Aegis Prime, Hanwol stood at the viewing window and looked down at Earth. The planet was wounded. Smoke and fire marked where great cities used to be. But it was not dead. Lights were coming on in other places. Humans were surviving. Humans were adapting. "Captain," said Boram, "we're receiving a priority message from the lunar base. Put it through." Admiral Young-ho's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than before, and there were tears in his eyes, but his expression was determined. "Captain Hanwol, I have new orders for you. You and your crew are no longer part of Earth's defense forces. You are now part of something new, something that has never existed before in human history." "What are our new orders, sir?" "Survive. Learn. Prepare. The aliens think they have conquered us, but they don't understand what they have done. They have united every human being under one cause. They have given us a single enemy to focus all our anger and intelligence on. They have made a terrible mistake. Young Ho leaned forward on the screen. Captain, humanity has been asleep for a long time. We've been dreaming of peace and art and love. Those were beautiful dreams. But now we're awake. And when humans wake up angry, we become very dangerous. Hanwol felt something stirring inside him. The numbness was going away. In its place was growing a cold, hard feeling. Not just anger, something more focused, something that would last longer than anger. What do you need us to do? Watch them. Learn everything you can about their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. The aliens are still out there in the outer solar system. They think the war. 3 months had passed since the attack. Earth looked different now. Where 10 great cities once stood, there were only craters filled with twisted metal and glass. But humanity had not died with those cities. Instead, they had moved underground. Dr. Sujin worked in a laboratory built deep beneath the ruins of Seoul. The walls were thick concrete lined with lead to block radiation. She had been studying fragments of the alien weapons for weeks, trying to understand how they worked. The technology is incredible, she told her assistant as she examined a piece of alien metal under her microscope. But it's also strange. These weapons were designed to cause maximum fear, not maximum damage. Her assistant looked confused. What do you mean, Doctor? Sujin pointed to the readings on her computer screen. Look at this. The explosions were precisely controlled. They destroyed exactly what they were meant to destroy and nothing more. If the aliens wanted to kill everyone on Earth, they could have used bigger weapons. Instead, they chose weapons that would kill many people but leave most of the planet alive. Why would they do that? Because they don't want to destroy us. They want to control us. The attack was meant to break our spirits, not end our species. They expected us to surrender after seeing their power. Above ground, the world was rebuilding in ways the aliens never expected. Colonel Minho walked through one of the new underground cities. It had been carved out of solid rock in just 3 months. Thousands of people lived here now, and more, arrived every day. The underground city was not just a place to hide. It was a fortress. Every tunnel had defensive positions. Every room could be sealed off if enemies broke through. The humans were not just surviving underground. They were preparing to fight from underground. Colonel, called Lieutenant Haye Jin, as she approached with a tablet in her hands. We have reports from resistance cells all over the planet. The numbers are incredible. Minho looked at the tablet. Every major country had formed resistance groups. People who had lost everything in the attack were volunteering to fight. Scientists were sharing their knowledge. Engineers were designing new weapons. Soldiers were training in secret. How many people are we talking about? Minho asked. Over 200 million active volunteers, sir. And that number grows every day. People are not giving up. They're getting angrier. Minho nodded. He had seen it himself. Humans who had been peaceful their entire lives were learning to use weapons. Parents who had never hurt anyone were training to become soldiers. The aliens had wanted to create fear, but instead, they had created something much more dangerous. They had created purpose. On Mars, engineer Ji-hoon worked in the greatest construction project in human history. The Martian shipyards had been expanded 100 times over in just 3 months. Thousands of the brightest humans from Earth had been evacuated here to work on secret projects. Show me the power readings again, Ji-hoon said to his team. The engineers gathered around a holographic display showing their latest design. It was a spaceship unlike anything humanity had ever built before. But it was not just human technology. They had combined human engineering with pieces of the alien weapons. The fusion reactor is working perfectly, reported one engineer. But the alien power cells are giving us 3 times more energy than we expected. Ji-hoon smiled. The aliens had made another mistake. When they fired their weapons at Earth, some of the weapons had been damaged by Earth's defenses. The pieces that fell to the planet were now being used to build weapons that would destroy their creators. What about the armor? Ji-hoon asked. That's the interesting part, said another engineer. Human steel alone isn't strong enough for space combat. Alien materials alone are too brittle for our weapon systems. But when we combine them, the engineer touched the holographic display. The image showed layers of human and alien materials woven together like cloth. The combined armor is stronger than anything either species has created alone. The aliens never thought to combine their technology with other materials. They think their way is always the best way. Ji-hoon nodded. That was the difference between humans and the aliens. Humans learned from their enemies. They took the best parts of enemy technology and made it their own. The aliens were too proud to learn from species they considered inferior. How long until we have a working prototype? Ji-hoon asked. 2 months, sir. Maybe less. Back on Aegis Prime, Captain Han-wol and Communications Officer Bo-ram continued to monitor alien transmissions. They had learned to decode some of the alien language over the past 3 months. What they heard made them both angry and hopeful. They're confused, Bo-ram reported, as she listened to another intercepted message. They keep talking about how humans are not behaving like other species they have conquered. What do you mean? Han-wol asked. According to their communications, every other species they attacked either surrendered immediately or fought briefly and then gave up. They've never encountered a species that got stronger after being attacked. Han-wol looked at the intelligence reports on his desk. Humans were not just surviving the attack. They were thriving in ways that made no sense to alien minds. Underground cities were being built faster than the destruction above. New weapons were being designed. Military training was happening in secret locations all over the solar system. What else are they saying? Bo-ram frowned as she listened to her headphones. They're starting to argue among themselves. Some of them want to attack again to finish the job. Others want to wait for humanity to surrender. Their war marshal is getting impatient. Good, Han-wol said quietly. Impatient enemies make mistakes. In the deepest parts of the lunar command bunker, Admiral Young-ho met with the leaders of humanity's new military force. The room was filled with people who had lost everything in the attack. But instead of broken survivors, they looked like hungry predators. Report, Young-ho said to Dr. Soo-jin. We understand their technology now, Admiral. The aliens are more advanced than us in some ways, but they have critical weaknesses. They've never fought a species that adapts as quickly as humans do. Their weapons and tactics are designed to work against enemies who think like them. What do you mean? Soo-jin activated a holographic display showing alien ship designs. Look at their ships. They're built for intimidation, not efficiency. They're large and impressive looking, but they have weak points that any human engineer would have fixed. They prioritize looking powerful over being powerful. Commander Sang-woo stood up. We've been training pilots using the alien ship designs Dr. Soo-jin provided. Our simulation battles show that human tactics can exploit their weaknesses easily. What kind of tactics? Young-ho asked. Unpredictable ones, sir. The aliens fight like they're following a rule book. They always use the same formations, the same strategies. They expect their enemies to do the same thing, but humans don't follow rule books when we're fighting for survival. Young-ho nodded. He had seen reports from all over the world. Humans were not preparing to fight a traditional war against the aliens. They were preparing to fight a war the aliens would never understand. What about our shipbuilding program? Ji-hoon's voice came through the communication system from Mars. Ahead of schedule, Admiral. We'll have 50 ships ready within 4 months. They're not as big as the alien ships, but they're faster, more maneuverable, and they can repair themselves during battle. Self-repairing ships? It was my daughter's idea, actually, Ji-hoon said with pride in his voice. She's only 12, but she asked why our ships couldn't grow back damaged parts like plants grow back lost leaves. We figured out how to do it using a combination of human nanotechnology and alien materials. Young-ho smiled. That was so perfectly human, taking a child's innocent question and turning it into a weapon that would terrify their enemies. Time. Frame for full fleet readiness? 1 year, sir, maybe 10 months if we push hard. Push hard, Young-ho said. Meanwhile, the aliens continued to wait in the outer solar system for humanity's surrender. War Marshal Thylix was becoming frustrated with the delay, but he was not yet worried. Other species had sometimes taken months to accept defeat, but his communications officer was starting to report disturbing information. "Sir, we're detecting unusual activity on the human planet," the officer reported during the daily briefing. "What kind of activity?" "Construction, sir. Massive construction projects, underground facilities, and sir," the officer hesitated, "we're detecting signs of industrial activity on the fourth planet as well. Mars. The humans appear to be building something there." Thylix felt the first small stirring of concern. "Building what?" "Unknown, sir. But the energy signatures are consistent with shipbuilding activities." Thylix thought about this for a moment. Could the humans be building ships? It seemed impossible. Their technology was primitive compared to Vorthak science. Even if they were building ships, what threat could they pose to a Vorthak fleet? How many ships could they possibly build with their limited resources? Thylix asked. "Based on their industrial capacity before the attack, perhaps a dozen small vessels, sir. Nothing that could threaten our fleet." Thylix relaxed. A dozen primitive ships against 200 advanced Vorthak warships was not a battle. It would be target practice. But down in the underground cities of Earth, humans were reading intercepted alien communications and laughing. 1 year after the attack, Captain Taehoon stood on the bridge of the first human dreadnought ever built. The ship was called Retribution's Edge, and it was beautiful in a way that would have terrified the old humanity. Every line of its hull was designed for war. Every system was built to kill. But it was not just a killing machine. It was proof that humans could create something the aliens never expected them to create. Hope. "Status report," Taehoon said to his crew. "All systems operational, Captain," reported his weapons officer. "The hybrid armor is performing better than expected. Human steel provides flexibility. Alien materials provide strength. Together, they create something that can withstand weapons from either species." Taehoon nodded. The ship's armor was a perfect example of how humans thought differently than aliens. The Vorthak built their ships using only Vorthak technology, because they believed their way was superior. Humans took the best from everywhere and made it work together. "What about weapons?" "Also performing above expectations, sir. The alien energy weapons are powerful, but they fire slowly. Human kinetic weapons are weaker, but they fire rapidly. We've combined both systems. We can fire alien strength shots as fast as human weapons." Through the bridge windows, Taehoon could see dozens of other human ships. Each one was different because human engineers couldn't stop improving their designs. The aliens built identical ships because they had found one design that worked and never changed it. Humans built each ship to be better than the last one. Time. To fleet assembly point. 36 hours, Captain. In the deepest laboratories of the Lunar Command Center, Dr. Yeon-jung finished her final report on alien psychology. She had spent the entire year studying every alien communication, every tactical decision, every cultural reference in their transmissions. What she had learned would change how humans fought wars forever. "Admiral Young-ho," she said as she entered, his office with a thick folder of documents. "I have something that will interest you." Young-ho looked up from his own reports. He looked older than he had a year ago, but stronger too. Leading humanity through its transformation had aged him, but it had also given him purpose. "What have you found, Doctor?" Yeon-jung sat down and opened her folder. "The Vorthak are not just predictable in their tactics, they're predictable in their thinking. They have conquered 12 other species using exactly the same methods every time. Which are: first, they demonstrate overwhelming force to break the enemy's will. Second, they wait for the enemy to surrender. Third, they accept the surrender and integrate the defeated species into their empire as workers." Young-ho frowned. "That's exactly what they tried to do to us." "Yes, sir. But here's what they've never encountered before. They've never fought. A species that didn't surrender after the demonstration of force. Every other species they attacked gave up within days or weeks. We're the first species to get stronger instead of weaker. What does that mean for our attack plans?" Yeon-jung smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "It means they have no plan for what to do if Step 2 fails. Their entire military doctrine is based on intimidation, not actual fighting. They don't know How to fight a real war against an enemy that wants to win. Are you saying they're weak? I'm saying they're mentally weak, sir. Physically, their ships and weapons are powerful, but mentally, they can't handle unexpected situations. They expect every battle to follow the same pattern. When it doesn't, they panic. Young-ho leaned back in his chair. Doctor, are you telling me that we can beat them not because we're stronger, but because we're more flexible? That's exactly what I'm telling you, sir. The Vorthak are like a very powerful machine that can only do one thing. Humans are like a smaller machine that can do 1,000 different things. In most situations, the powerful machine wins. But when the situation changes quickly, the flexible machine survives, Young-ho finished, and wins, Yoon-jung added. On Mars, Commander Sang-woo watched his pilots practice for the coming battle. These were not the same humans who had lived peacefully on Earth 2 years ago. These were predators who had learned to hunt in the darkness of space. Squadron leaders report, Sang-woo said into his communications headset. Red Squadron ready, Commander. All pilots qualified on alien ship recognition and weakness exploitation. Blue Squadron ready. Psychological warfare protocols. Downloaded and understood. Green Squadron ready. Suicide mission volunteers standing by. Sang-woo paused at that last report. Green Squadron leader, clarify your last statement. Sir, every pilot in Green Squadron has volunteered for suicide missions if necessary. We've lost everything already. We have nothing left to fear. This was what the aliens didn't understand about humans, Sang-woo realized. When humans had nothing left to lose, they became the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Fear could no longer control them because they had already experienced the worst thing that could happen to them. Green Squadron, noted and appreciated, but I want you to remember something. Dead heroes can't kill more enemies. Your job is to survive and keep fighting. Understood, Commander. But the option remains available. Sang-woo smiled grimly. Yes, the aliens had definitely awakened the wrong species. Back on Earth, the underground cities had grown into something amazing. What had started as simple shelters were now massive industrial complexes. Millions of people lived and worked underground, and they were not just surviving. They were building the largest war machine in human history. Engineer Ji-hoon walked through the main assembly hall of the Seoul underground complex. 6 months ago, this had been solid rock. Now it was a factory, capable of producing a spaceship every 3 days. Similar factories existed under the ruins of every destroyed city. Production report, Ji-hoon asked his assistant. Ahead of schedule on everything, sir. We've completed 237 ships. Weapons production is at 100, and 12% of projected output. Armor plating is being produced faster than we can install it. Ji-hoon nodded. The aliens had made a critical error when they destroyed Earth's cities. They thought they were destroying humanity's industrial capacity. Instead, they had freed humans from the need to worry about property values, environmental regulations, and zoning laws. The underground factories could work at maximum efficiency because there were no neighbors to complain about the noise. What about the special projects? His assistant's eyes lit up. The psychological warfare ships are ready for testing. The self-repair systems are working perfectly. And, sir, the Children's Weapons Project has produced some very interesting results. Ji-hoon smiled. 6 months ago, someone had asked the children in the underground cities to design weapons for fighting aliens. Adults had expected drawings of bigger guns and faster ships. Instead, the children had designed weapons that would confuse and frighten enemies who thought like adults. Show me. They walked to a secure section of the factory. Inside, engineers were putting finishing touches on devices that looked more like art projects than weapons. But Ji-hoon knew better. This one creates sounds that the aliens will interpret as their own distress calls, explained one engineer, pointing to a device that looked like a metal flower. When they hear it, their instinct will be to help their fellow Vorthak. But there won't be any Vorthak to help. It will confuse and delay them. This one projects images of Vorthak ships that aren't really there, said another engineer. The aliens will waste time and ammunition shooting at ghosts. And this one, said a third engineer proudly, broadcasts messages in the Vorthak language that sound like orders from their war marshal. But the orders contradict each other. It will make their fleet coordination impossible. Ji-hoon shook his head in amazement. Adults thought like adults. They built weapons to destroy enemy ships and kill enemy soldiers. Children thought like children. They built weapons to confuse enemies and make them make mistakes. The aliens are going to hate fighting us, Ji-hoon said with satisfaction. In the outer solar system, War Marshal Thylix was beginning to experience something he had never felt before in his long military career. Doubt. Status report, he demanded during his daily briefing. Sir, the humans have still not sent any surrender communications. Our intelligence indicates they have increased their industrial activity significantly. How significantly? Sir, our estimates suggest they may have built as many as 200 ships. Thylix felt a cold sensation in his stomach. 200 ships was more than he had expected, but still not a serious threat to his fleet of 800 Vorthak warships. But the fact that humans could build 200 ships in 1 year meant their industrial capacity had been severely underestimated. What quality are these ships? Unknown, sir. But our analysis of their previous technology suggests they will be inferior to Vorthak designs. Thylix nodded, but he was not as confident as he appeared. Something was wrong with this situation. In every previous conquest, the defeated species had either surrendered quickly or been completely destroyed. Humans were doing neither. Any other intelligence? Sir, we have intercepted some human communications. The translations are difficult, but they appear to be coordinating for some kind of large-scale operation. Military operation? Possibly, sir. But surely they don't intend to attack us. Our fleet is 4 times larger than anything they could possibly build. Thylix. The human fleet emerged from the shadow of Jupiter like a school of metal sharks. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of the command ship Terra's Wrath and watched as 250 human warships took formation around him. Each ship carried the hopes of billions of dead humans and the fury of those still alive. Fleet status report, Kyung-ho commanded. All ships report ready for battle, Admiral, replied his communications officer. Weapons charged, armor systems active, psychological warfare equipment online. Kyung-ho nodded. The psychological warfare equipment was something the aliens would never expect. Dr. Yoon Jung's research had shown that Vorthak psychology was rigid and predictable. Humans were about to exploit that weakness in ways the aliens couldn't imagine. Long range. Sensors, what do you see? Vorthak fleet detected at bearing 27 Mark IV. 800 ships in standard formation. They appear to be confused, sir. Confused how? They're not moving to intercept us, Admiral. Our intelligence indicates they expected us to contact them with surrender terms, not attack with a battle fleet. Kyung-ho smiled coldly. Perfect. Open a channel to the Vorthak fleet. Channel open, sir. Attention, Vorthak fleet. This is Admiral Kyung-ho of the Terran Defense Force. 1 year ago, you fired 10 missiles at our planet. You killed billions of our people. You destroyed our cities. You thought you were teaching us to fear you. Kyung-ho paused, letting his words sink in. You were wrong. You taught us something else. You taught us what happens when someone threatens everything we love. Today, you're going to learn the most important lesson in the galaxy. Never attack a species that has nothing left to lose. The Vorthak flagship, War Marshal Thylix stared at his communication screen in shock. The human fleet was not surrendering. They were not begging for mercy. They were declaring war. How many ships do they have? Thylix demanded. 250 confirmed, sir, reported his sensor officer. But sir, that's impossible. Our intelligence said they could build perhaps 50 ships at most. Thylix felt his confidence wavering. Everything about this situation was wrong. The humans were acting like a species that expected to win, not like a defeated enemy making a last desperate gesture. What class of ships? Unknown design, sir. They appear to be smaller than our dreadnoughts, but they're moving in formation. Patterns we don't recognize. Thylix looked at the tactical display. The human ships were arranged in a pattern that made no sense according to Vorthak military doctrine. Instead of the standard wall formation that allowed maximum firepower, the humans were spread out in small groups that could move independently. Are they trying to confuse us with irregular tactics? Possibly, sir, but sir, there's something else. We're receiving additional transmissions from the human fleet. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it on screen. The main display, filled with images that made Thylex's blood run cold. Videos of human children playing in the ruins of destroyed cities. Footage of humans working in underground factories, building weapons while singing songs about their dead families. Pictures of memorials built from the melted metal of alien missiles. What is the purpose of this? Thylex asked, but his psychological warfare expert was already analyzing the transmissions with growing alarm. Sir, this is not random propaganda. These transmissions are specifically designed to demonstrate human psychological resilience. They're showing us that our attack didn't break them. It made them stronger. That's impossible. Sir, I've studied the psychology of 12 conquered species. None of them ever responded to our attacks by becoming more unified and more determined. The humans are displaying behavioral patterns that don't exist in our database. Thylex felt something he had never experienced before. Uncertainty about victory. But he was a Vorthak war marshal. His fleet was more than 3 times larger than the human force. Superior numbers had to count for something. All ships, prepare for battle. Standard wall formation. We'll crush them with overwhelming firepower. But as the Vorthak fleet began to move into position, Captain Soon Young of the human ship Vengeance's Call was implementing the first phase of humanity's battle plan. Activate Project Nightmare, Soon Young ordered. Suddenly, the space around, the Vorthak fleet filled with dozens of false signals. The children's confusion weapons were working perfectly. Vorthak sensors detected ships that weren't there, heard distress calls from empty space, and received contradictory orders that seemed to come from their own command structure. What's happening? War Marshal Thylex demanded as his bridge filled with conflicting reports. Sir, we're detecting over 400 human ships now. No, wait. 300. Sir, our sensors can't get a consistent reading. Are they using some kind of jamming technology? Unknown, sir. We're also receiving what appear to be orders from Vorthak High Command, but they contradict your orders. Thylex felt panic starting to creep into his mind. This was not how battles were supposed to work. Enemies were supposed to fight in predictable ways. They were supposed to follow rules that Vorthak strategists understood. Ignore all orders, except mine. Focus fire on confirmed human targets only. But it was too late. The Vorthak fleet was already falling into chaos as individual captains tried to follow contradictory orders and shoot at targets that kept disappearing from their sensors. Meanwhile, pilot Jae Sung led the first wave of human fighters toward the Vorthak formation. His squadron was flying ships that had been deliberately designed to look different from anything the Vorthak had ever seen. Instead of the sleek, intimidating shapes favored by most military forces, human fighters looked like angry insects or mechanical spiders. Remember the plan, Jae Sung said to his pilots over the radio. We're not just trying to destroy their ships. We're trying to destroy their confidence. Every shot you fire should make them more confused and more frightened. Understood, squadron leader. Psychological warfare protocols active. The human fighters attacked in patterns that made no sense to Vorthak tactical doctrine. Instead of focusing fire on the largest enemy ships, they targeted communication arrays and sensor equipment. Instead of fighting to destroy, they fought to confuse and disorient. Sir, we're losing coordination across the fleet, reported the Vorthak communications officer. The humans seem to be targeting our ability to work together rather than our ability to fight. Thylex watched in growing horror as his perfect formation fell apart. Vorthak captains couldn't communicate with each other. Sensors were giving false readings. Orders were being lost in a chaos of contradictory signals. This is not how space battles work, Thylex said to himself. His tactical officer overheard and replied, Sir, I don't think the humans care how space battles are supposed to work. As the battle continued, the genius of human strategy became clear. The Vorthak had designed their entire military around the concept of overwhelming force applied in predictable ways. They had never learned to fight enemies who broke all the rules. Engineer Ji-hoon watched the battle from his command ship and felt proud of what humanity had accomplished. Every human ship was performing exactly as designed. When they took damage, their self-repair systems immediately began fixing the problems. When they needed to change tactics, their modular weapon systems could be reconfigured in minutes. Status of the fleet? Ji-hoon asked. 12 ships reporting minor damage, all being repaired automatically. No ships lost. The Vorthak are trying to use standard fleet tactics against us, but we're not fighting a standard battle. What's our casualty estimate for the enemy? 43 Vorthak ships destroyed or disabled, sir. But more importantly, their fleet coordination has completely collapsed. They're fighting as individual ships now, not as a unified force. Ji-hoon nodded. That had been the real goal of the human attack plan. The Vorthak were individually powerful, but they depended on rigid command structures to coordinate their actions, destroy their ability to work together, and their numerical advantage became meaningless. Begin Phase 2 of the attack. Across the human fleet, the second wave of psychological warfare began. Every human ship started broadcasting personal messages from the survivors of the destroyed Earth cities. Not propaganda or military threats, but simple personal statements from humans who had lost everything. This is Min Jung from Seoul. Your weapons killed my daughter. Her name was Yu Jin and she was 6 years old. She liked to draw pictures of flowers. I'm fighting today so that no other mother will lose her daughter to aliens who think fear is stronger than love. This is Chang Wu from New York. You destroyed my bookstore. It had been in my family for 4 generations. My great-grandfather built it with his own hands. I'm here to make sure you never destroy anyone else's dreams. Message. After message poured across the radio frequencies. Personal stories from individual humans who had been hurt by the Vorthak attack. Each message was simple and direct, but together, they painted a picture of a species that would never give up, never surrender, and never forgive. On the Vorthak flagship, the psychological warfare expert was analyzing these transmissions with growing alarm. Sir, these humans are not behaving like any species we've ever encountered. They're not fighting for territory or resources or political power. They're fighting for emotional reasons. What does that mean? It means they can't be negotiated with, sir. You can't offer them. The final battle took place in orbit around the Vorthak homeworld. Commander Insu stood on the bridge of the human flagship Eternal Memory and watched as the last remnants of the alien fleet tried to defend their planet. 6 months had passed since the first battle, and humanity had pursued the retreating Vorthak across 3 star systems. Sir, we have visual confirmation of the Vorthak homeworld, reported the navigation officer. Population approximately 12 billion. Major cities. Detected on 4 continents, Insu nodded. The planet below looked peaceful from space, much like Earth had looked before the attack. Green continents, blue oceans, white clouds. It was beautiful, and Insu felt a moment of sadness for what was about to happen. But then he remembered the crater where Seoul used to be. He remembered the billions of humans who had died in the first 10 minutes of alien aggression. His sadness hardened into resolve. Are our missile systems ready? Insu asked. All systems ready, sir. 10 missiles, just as requested. Same number. They fired at Earth. Insu looked out at the Vorthak planet one more time. The aliens were about to learn exactly what they had taught humanity 1 year ago. Fire. 10 missiles launched from the human fleet. But these were not antimatter weapons designed to kill millions. These were something entirely different. Something that would demonstrate how much humanity had learned about the power of fear. Each missile contained a transmission array and a holographic projector. When they reached the Vorthak planet, they would not explode. Instead, they would broadcast. On the planet below, War Marshal Thylix sat in his command bunker and watched the incoming missiles on his screen. He had failed to defeat the human fleet in space. His forces had been destroyed or scattered. Now the humans were about to destroy his homeworld, just as he had tried to destroy theirs. Time to impact? Thylix asked. 30 seconds, sir, replied his weapons officer. Sir, should we try to evacuate the civilian populations? Thylix almost laughed. Evacuate 12 billion people in 30 seconds? It was impossible. He had made the same calculation when he attacked Earth, and he had decided that civilian casualties were an acceptable price for victory. Now he would learn what humans thought about that decision. 10 seconds to impact, sir. Thylix closed his eyes and waited for the end of his world, but the explosions never came. Instead, the sky above every major Vorthak city suddenly filled with images. Holographic displays showing the destruction of Earth's cities, videos of human children playing in radioactive craters, pictures of memorials built from the melted remains of alien weapons. And then came the voices. Billions of human voices, speaking in perfect Vorthak language, telling the story of what had happened to Earth. 1 year ago, your war marshal fired 10 missiles at our planet. He killed 4 billion of our people in the first hour. He destroyed our greatest cities. He thought he was teaching us to fear you. The voice was calm and clear, broadcast simultaneously to every communication device. On the Vorthak planet, he was wrong. He taught us something else. He taught us that there are species in this galaxy who believe that fear is stronger than love, who think that death is more powerful than life, who assume that peaceful means weak. On his command ship, above the planet, Insu watched as the Vorthak fleet finally stopped trying to fight. Their ships hung motionless in space, their crews listening to the human broadcast in stunned silence. Today, you will learn what happens when you threaten a species that values life above all things. You will see what we do to enemies who kill our children and destroy our homes. You will understand why you should have left us alone. Thylix sat in his bunker, staring at the holographic displays filling the sky above his planet. The images showed human cities being rebuilt, human children learning to read in underground schools, human engineers designing new ships while tears ran down their faces. But first, the human voice continued, you will learn about the difference between your species and ours. The images changed. Now they showed the human fleet in orbit around the Vorthak planet. Hundreds of ships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a continent. The same firepower that Thylix had used against Earth. We could destroy your cities now. We could kill your children and leave your planet in ruins. We have the weapons. We have the power. And we have the right. Thylix felt his heart stop beating. This was it. The humans were going to take their revenge, but we will not. The words echoed across the Vorthak planet, broadcast to every city, every town, every home. We will not become you. We will not kill billions of innocent people to make a point. We will not destroy your children's future to satisfy our anger. In his command bunker, Thylix felt something he had never experienced before. Shame. Deep, burning shame for what he had done to Earth. Instead, we will do something your species has never learned to do. We will show mercy, but our mercy comes with a price. The images in the sky changed again. This time they showed human diplomats sitting at a large conference table. And officially, documents, peace treaties, maps showing borders and territories. Your military forces will surrender unconditionally. Your aggressive expansion into other star systems will end. Your species will learn to coexist peacefully with your neighbors, or we will return to finish what you started. Admiral Hyojin, now commanding the entire human galactic fleet from the rebuilt Sol Orbital Command, watched the Vorthak surrender from her command center. It had taken 18 months, but humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had defeated a more advanced enemy not through superior technology, but through superior will. Status report from the Vorthak homeworld, she requested. Complete surrender, Admiral. Their war marshal has agreed to all terms. No conditions, no negotiations. They're asking for permission to begin peace talks. Hyojin nodded. It was over. Humanity had won. But the victory felt different than she had expected. There was satisfaction, yes. There was relief. But there was also sadness for all the death and destruction that could have been avoided if the Vorthak had simply left Earth alone. Admiral, called Communications Officer Narai from her station, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. Put it through. The main screen filled with the image of an alien diplomat from a species Hyojin didn't recognize. The alien looked nervous and spoke in careful, respectful tones. Admiral, I am Ambassador Kelthon of the Galactic Council. We have been monitoring the conflict between humanity and the Vorthak Empire. We would like to invite humanity to join the Council as a member species. Yijin almost smiled. A year ago, humanity hadn't even known the Galactic Council existed. Now they were being invited to join it. What does membership entail? Yijin asked. Protection of peaceful species, prevention of aggressive expansion, maintenance of galactic stability. The Council believes that humanity's unique approach to conflict resolution would be valuable. Hyejin understood. The other species had watched humanity defeat the Vorthak, and were now afraid of what humans might do next. They wanted humanity inside the Council, where they could influence human decisions. We accept, Yijin said, but we have conditions. The alien diplomat looked even more nervous. What conditions? Any species that attacks civilian populations will face the same treatment the Vorthak received. Any government that believes peace is weakness will learn otherwise. And any military force that thinks superior technology makes them invincible will discover that technology without wisdom is just expensive junk. Ambassador Kelthon nodded quickly. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. 5 years after the attack, Ambassador, Borum stood before the assembled Galactic Council and delivered humanity's first formal address to the galaxy's governing body. 5 years ago, an alien species attacked our planet. They killed billions of our people. They destroyed our cities. They thought they were teaching us our place in the galaxy. The council chamber was completely silent. Representatives from dozens of species listened intently to every word. They succeeded. We learned our place. We learned that we are the species that other species call when they need protection from aggressors. We learned that we are the ones who stand between peaceful civilizations and those who would destroy them for profit or pleasure. Boram looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. We did not choose this role. It was forced upon us by an enemy who mistook our love of peace for fear of war. But we have accepted it, because we have learned something about ourselves that we never knew before. She paused, letting her words sink in. We learned that when humans are threatened, we do not break. We adapt. We do not surrender. We overcome. We do not forget. We prepare. And we do not forgive those who hurt the innocent. In the audience, War Marshal Thylik sat with the Vorthak delegation. He was older now, and broken by the knowledge of what his aggression had unleashed. He listened to the human ambassador with the respect of a defeated enemy who had learned too late what he was truly fighting. The galaxy is now protected by a species that remembers every act of aggression against civilians, every unprovoked attack, every attempt to rule through fear rather than earn respect through cooperation. Boram's voice grew harder. To any species, considering military expansion against peaceful neighbors, we offer this advice: don't. To any government planning to rule through intimidation,